from ESPN, joins us every single week at this time. Our man Adam Schefter joins us. Shefty, good morning.
Good morning. How are we doing today?
Well, I'm not good because the Phillies keep losing to the Mets, but I will try to ignore that for the next 10 minutes when we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, who are the defending Super Bowl champions, who, of course, finalized their roster yesterday. But Howie Roseman said right away after the 4 o'clock deadline, I'm not done yet. What do you think about those statements from Howie Roseman? What are the tea leaves that Adam Schefter is looking at right now?
I just think that that's his DNA. I mean, I don't know anything that, he's making some big move. I know that, they've spent a lot of money. They don't have a lot of money left. They've allocated their resources there. So it's not like all of a sudden, he's going to go out today and trade for some huge name, high salary player. I don't think. Not that I know of. I just think that that's how he is. That's how he's wired. He's always looking and always thinking. But I can't say that I know that there's this move he has lined up that he's waiting to spring on you today or this week.
Now, with the waiver claim period opening up, do you expect the Eagles to be more active trying to claim players or maybe trade to acquire players?
Well, first of all, they're in the 30-second slot. So
right.
If there's anybody of any value, the chances are they're not going to get them. I mean, if there's a player they like, he'd have to be off the radars of teams, and he'd have to be better than the guys they have in their roster, and it's a tough combination to come up with. It could happen, but I would say that it's more unlikely to happen. And, yeah, I mean, they always should be dealing. But, again, they made 3 trades on Sundays. Like, how many trades do you think they're going to make?
10 more. 10 more, Shefty. I need a better cornerback, too. I need a better safety starting week 1. Well, speaking of all of that, there's a lot of questions with this defense. I know that you know Vic Fangio very well from your time in Denver and obviously your many years covering the NFL. How much grace should somebody give Vic Fangio early on in the season? You and I talked about the patience, offense versus defense, a couple of weeks ago. But how much grace does a guy like Vic Fangio get to start a season when there were some questions with this roster because of how much money is allocated toward the offense, because of how much money is going to eventually be allocated to some of the key players on the defense, but there are questions around the defensive side of the ball. So what kind of patience does Vic Fangio deserve at this tenure of his career?
Well, I would say that, I say this to him all the time, like, Vic, you're one of the keys to this defense. Like,
yeah.
They count on you to turn things around. So, that's how it goes. There's responsibility to you to get things going the right way. And to me, grace, I don't know. Like, if the defense doesn't play well, people are going to be mad. They're not going to give him grace. That's the way the league works. But, again, I've watched him a long time, and he usually has his defenses playing at a high level. I expect that to be the same case this year. So I don't think he's getting grace. I don't think many coaches get grace.
Now, Schefter, you brought up the 3 trades the Eagles did make on Sunday, acquiring Sam Howell from the Vikings, acquiring Fred Johnson from the Jaguars, and then shipping Darian Kincade to the Green Bay Packers for a pick. What do you make of that flurry of trades? Just resetting the roster, offensive line depth questions. What was your thought on that?
I thought it was them kind of adding depth where they felt like they needed it. Obviously, they liked Fred Johnson more than they liked the offensive lineman they traded away. They got some added draft capital. They've got picks to play with. And again, when Howie mentioned whatever he mentioned yesterday, I didn't hear it, and you're asking me about it today. What I would say going forward for this week and next week is I think they have 13 picks. 13?
Yep.
So they have the flexibility to do what they want. If there's somebody that they really want to pursue and go after, they can, because they have the ammunition to go do that. And so that's what that is about, as much as anything else. And they can do more, and he's trying to upgrade the depth at certain spots. They've always liked Sam Howell. Tanner McKee had the bad finger. They don't know whether he'll be ready for week 1. He might, but he might not. And if he's not, they want to make sure they had a capable backup just in case. And they like Sam Howell. So you go out and get another quarterback that you value.
Adam Schefter joins us here on the Comcast Business Hotline. Yeah, I'm curious, Shefty. You mentioned Howie and all the picks that they have to use to potentially trade for players at some point this season. It hasn't been just an Eagles thing recently. When did you start seeing more and more trades happening midseason in the NFL? Because it used to be not long ago that the only hot stove was the Major League Baseball hot stove. Now, all of a sudden, in recent years, you know how active the NBA trades are. But in the NFL, it's not something that we're totally used to. But in recent years, we're seeing it across the league. What led to this change in how teams are adding to their teams midseason?
Yeah. Well, I think this week is a great example, right? You saw a lot of these little trades, teams flopping picks, this player for a seventh. So I think teams are tired of being in the Eagles spot, back end of the waiver order and not being able to get their guy. So before we lose out on a guy we like, let's flop picks. Let's trade a 7. Let's trade a 28 pick. Like, those are the kinds of moves you're seeing now. And I think teams have seen successful teams be active in the trade market. We've got a newer, younger breed of general managers that's learned to be aggressive from one another. And so I think it's just kind of feeds off itself. There's more activity, which leads to more activity. Teams that have succeeded have done it with trading. Teams have, in recent years, followed this trend of, trading or flip-flopping draft picks for back end of the roster guys. So it's just, it all just seems to keep going and gathering speed and momentum, and that's kind of where it's at.
We have to ask you, because we have, it feels like every week for months now, what is the latest on the Micah Parsons situation in Dallas as we draw closer to week 1?
Yeah, to my knowledge, it could have changed overnight. I don't think so. It's not any different. They haven't had any contract talks in months. Micah hasn't practiced all summer. He says his back is tight. They open the season a week from tomorrow in your city. My sense is he won't play. If he does play, he'll be limited. It's not an ideal scenario. And again, the one thing that I take away this week was we saw Terry McLaurin's deal come together very quickly when there was a lot of animosity there this summer. We saw Trey Hendrickson's deal come away and get done very quickly when there was a lot of animosity there this summer. So I understand that these things can and do change on a dime. And within 24 hours, it could go from these sides don't like each other to deals done. That definitely could happen. But I will just say that there's no indication today that will happen.
So I'm curious, because we've been following this saga, the entire offseason, and I know you have been as well. Is this, publicly it seems to be all Jerry Jones's fault, but is there more to it? Like, I know Jerry had the weird comments on Michael Irvin's podcast about what the agent said to him about the contract. I know there's talks about how Jerry Jones is going directly to Micah Parsons, which goes against CBA laws. So who's at fault for this leading into potentially week 1 of the NFL season, in your opinion and your reporting, Shefty?
I think there's probably blame to go around. I'm not going to blame any one person. I think that probably, Jerry tried to get the deal done with Micah. Micah shouldn't have discussed anything with him. There was no contract that was introduced. The agent wasn't involved. The agent got mad at that, which he should have, because they tried to go around him. But that's what Jerry's always done with his guys. And then no one talked. And why didn't somebody step in? And why didn't anybody else get involved when these two sides were upset in late March and early April? How come it's lingered this long? Why has Jerry made this his Waterloo? Why does Micah issue a public trade request and kind of show up there? We go on and on with this. It's a long-running soap drama that doesn't show any signs of abating right now. And again, like I said, these things can change quick, but it doesn't feel that way right now.
So, Adam, with guys like that, Micah Parsons, or even Trey Hendrickson, Cincinnati, Terry McLaurin in Washington, guys that get deals done late, what's the level of concern with their not so much availability, but how ready they're going to be to just step on the field with less practice than they're used to?
Well, a lot. again, I've heard my colleagues that work the Jets talk about Darrell Revis going through his holdout summer, and then in week 1 pulled his hamstring against Randy Moss when he didn't go through camp. That always is a possibility. So, if and when Micah does get back, that's going to be an issue. It very well could be an issue early in the season for McLaurin and Trey Hendrickson. Got to be careful and smart. So those are just the realities of the job. And when you miss camp, that could be the price paid. Now, the flip side of that also is Jamar Chase didn't take a snap at all last summer. Started slow, but finished with a triple crown in receiving, so it didn't seem to hinder him too much. So it can be done, but there is risk that comes with it too.
Another beautiful, quiet camp for the Philadelphia Eagles, which makes me wonder why more teams don't try to do what they do. Schefty, next week we talk to you the day before kickoff between the Eagles and Cowboys. We can't wait for it, man. We are 1 week away.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much. Have a great Labor Day weekend, and we'll talk next Wednesday.
You as well. There's our
Thanks,
man, Adam Schefter from ESPN on the Comcast Business Hotline. Man, could you imagine, though, Mike Parsons week 1?
I mean, I'm expecting